Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting right alongside us is Filmy and Phil.
How we doing tonight, guys?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we got a couple of exciting movies, vastly different, to talk about on Cinemajaw.
They are quite different. We have one from Clint Eastwood and a musical. I don't know how much more different they get.
I know. And we came up with some pretty good discussion points. Everything ranging from mental health to awkward teen movies to our favorite older cowboy. We're going to be touching on a lot of...
not to mention bizarre animals.
Oh, man. We got some good topics to touch on here, Matt.
Yeah, I agree, man. This is fun.
Besides that, we always have more going on. Right, Phil?
Oh, yeah, you know it. This is going to be our final week of Clint Eastwood month. So we're taking her home with another clip and our final fact. And it's a pretty good one this week.
And as we mentioned, we have two reviews this week. The new one from Clint Eastwood, Cry Macho, and the musical Dear Evan Hansen.
Dear Matt Kay, I wanted to tell you, since we don't have a guest, we are going to stump the Kabinski one more time. 5 questions. The topic this time, getting ready for Venom. Let There Be Carnage. I believe that's the name, correct?
Uh-huh.
Let There Be Carnage.
I believe you're correct, yeah.
And Carnage is a character who's going to be played by Woody Harrelson. So we're going to stump the Kabinski with Woody Harrelson questions.
I know my Woody, so we'll see, man. I've been a fan ever since Cheers. What was that? Was that an awkwardly phrased statement?
A little bit.
I'm talking about Toy Story, man. Come on.
I'm excited because next week we're hoping for 2 big reviews: Venom, as I mentioned, and also the new James Bond. We should have seen already by the time we're going to record the next episode.
I know. No Time to Die. I'm stoked.
2 big reviews next week. So a lot going on here at Cinemajaw, Matt. The movies are coming out like crazy now.
I know. It's nice. It's nice because every time we feel like things are back, things take a step backwards. But now it really feels like things are kind of getting there, moving forward, at least in the movie world.
I agree. There were some, we did our fall movie preview, and there were a couple of movies that moved back off the calendar. Top Gun and Mission Impossible being 2 of them. But
what's up, Tom Cruise?
I was reading, they just have so much money invested in those movies that they just need big box office. So they felt the need to step back. But we get a James Bond movie. These things are global hits. They're not just here in the US, but some of these James Bond movies, they can make upwards of, $600-700 million globally. So it's a big movie.
It's going to be huge. Can't wait. Yeah, I'm a big Bond fan, as you know, Ryan.
Absolutely. That's what we'll be talking next week. But like Phil said, this week, it is our last week celebrating the great Clint Eastwood, Hollywood icon himself. So let's start with the Clint Eastwood fact.
Yeah, this week's fact, I hypothesize is going to win some people like bar trivia, or at the very least, it could scam some people out of money at a bar. So in the film, The Outlaw Josie Wales from 1976,
you mean Jose Wales?
Jose Wales, yes. Jose Wales. Philip Kaufman was the original director of this film. However, on October 24th, 1975, about a year before the film was released, Clint Eastwood replaced Philip Kaufman, which was a very controversial move. And it actually prompted the Directors Guild of America to create a rule preventing people from doing this exact thing. So it states that any current cast or crew member cannot fire a director on a film and then replace that same director, which has since been called the Eastwood Rule. That rule is still in place today.
That's interesting. If anybody could pull off a move like that, it's Clint Eastwood in the 70s, right?
Yeah. Well, he had the clout, right?
Yeah. But he still has the clout.
Not apparently. The whole Directors Guild hates him. Well, that's not true. They don't hate him. They think he's very talented, but
they had to make a rule to keep him from doing the same thing again. And I think it sort of bit Eastwood later on in his career. He butted heads with another director and almost wanted to do the same thing, where he wanted this guy fired and he just wanted to helm the movie. And now the Directors Guild said, you can't do that. We've made a rule that the cast and crew can't take over the movie. So,
but let's.
I don't fully understand, because to be clear, the rule specifically says that as someone in a position of firing the director, so it has to be some principal level of production, right? You can't just be like a PA and then replace him,
right? It's got to be somebody with some power.
Yeah, but I still think okay, if you're in that position where it's enough of your film that you can fire a director, to me, it's kind of like, doesn't that qualify you for the job? Yeah.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
But if the director has already started working on the movie, and a lot of it is his vision, right? And he's, scouting locations and doing some casting and all the good stuff. And then all of a sudden he's going to get fired. I could see the point from the Directors Guild as well.
They just don't want diva stars, taking over movies and tanking them, because, okay, in Clint Eastwood's case, yeah, sure, that worked out. But imagine if somebody far less talented, but equally popular star value did that, and it could have destroyed the movie.
Right. The thing that we love about the movies is the collaboration between all of these people. When the director doesn't get along with an actor, but it still somehow turns out to make great art. That's part of what we love talking about.
And let's be honest, if Clint Eastwood wanted a director fired, that director would get fired, and then he could put in a patsy who would listen to whatever he said, rule or no rule.
The trick around it, also for the record, this is only gilded production. This is only union films. Okay. So if you just go completely indie and you're non-union, indies are the Wild West.
We call them scabs, Phil. They're scabs.
Indies. I'm just kidding. That is kidding. Like 75% of the people who have been here.
Yeah, I am 100% kidding.
But they can still do it. So if you're an independent filmmaker, you can fire that director and then assume their job, fully legally compliant.
Great. So next time Ryan makes a movie and I'm the actor, I'm going to fire you, Ryan, and replace you with Phil.
Wow. I can't believe I'm getting fired. I think maybe somebody could have been fired out of the first movie we're going to be reviewing today, Matt.
Oh, you do think so, huh? Dear Evan Hansen, based on the Tony Award-winning musical of the same name, adapted for the big screen by director Steven Chbosky, who also gave us Perks of Being a Wallflower, comes the coming of age anxiety story, Dear Evan Hansen. There have been some rather polarized reviews of this conversation starter of a film, but can it hit the high notes or is it just flat? Ryan and I signed each other's casts to find out.
Dear Evan Hansen, today is going to be an amazing day, and here's why.
Have you been doing those letters to yourself with Dr. Sherman?
I've been trying to. Have you ever felt like nobody was there?
No one signed your cast. Now we can both pretend we are friends.
I'm sorry about my brother.
Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere?
Ryan, after a string of disappointing musicals this year, I was prepared to not like Dear Evan Hansen at all. That being said, I must admit the first time I saw the trailer and before I knew it was a musical, I was very intrigued by the premise. And I have to give a trigger warning here. The film deals with teen suicide, anxiety, isolation, and depression. The setup is this. Evan Hansen is a high schooler who struggles with the above mentioned. His therapist has assigned him to writing notes to himself. When another troubled and isolated boy, Connor, takes the note Evan wrote to himself and later takes his own life, his family mistakes the note for a sign of friendship they never knew existed and seek out Evan's help in understanding what their son was going through. Being a person who struggles with his own depression, Evan finds it easy to paint a picture of a sad and isolated friend that never existed, and soon the lie takes on a life of its own. I got to tell you, Rye, This film made me ugly cry, and not just in some parts. I sobbed and teared the whole way through. It is a bittersweet, sad, but ultimately uplifting movie. I do think that it addresses mental health in a realistic and respectful way, and hopefully it will be a health class classic moving forward. The nearest thing I could compare it to is a John Hughes movie, one of the complex coming-of-age ones, less so than the comedies. Like Hughes, Chbosky and screenwriter Stephen Levinson captured the honesty and frankness of being a teen without smoothing out the rough edges. I think there's a lot to unpack from Dear Evan Hansen. Many social and mental health lessons to be gleaned, and I was thoroughly entertained the entire runtime. The cast is fantastic, including heavyweights Julianne Moore and Amy Adams, who were both great, as well as the lesser-known Caitlin Dever, who you'll recall from Booksmart, and Ben Platt, who plays the lead. There has been criticism in the casting of Platt in particular, who people felt was too old for the role, but I just didn't think so. Tobey Maguire was 27 when he first played the 15-year-old Peter Parker. So I've just become used to Hollywood casting slightly older people to play teen roles, and it just doesn't bother me. This is the first musical this year that I loved or even liked. The music, while mostly quite sad and in minor key, was beautiful and sing-songy enough to even call catchy. I highly recommend it. Perhaps it will help some people find answers and realize they're not alone. That's my take, Rye. I'm
floored. I don't even know what to say here.
Really?
I was under the impression, me and you, this is where we get stuck sometimes, not talking about what we thought of the movie beforehand, because I thought we were really
that's a bad thing or a good thing? You thought we were both going to rip this one?
Oh yeah. I was under the impression like we were going to have a laugh with this one because it was just a junker of a movie, but here you come on singing its praises.
I loved it.
It has all the right intentions of a movie. And that's why I actually, when I came out again, this was one I saw at a screening where they asked me for my first reaction. And I said, it has such nice intentions. I don't want to say anything bad, so I'll just say mixed review. That's what I said. I felt bad bashing the movie, but it's not very good, Matt.
Do tell. Okay. Why?
For many reasons, but the casting, I do want to stay at the front. I don't have a big problem with it either. I saw this online that Ben Platt is too old. And I agree with you. We've seen this numerous times. That's the least of its problems, I think.
Yeah. I mean, John Cusack was like 40 when he was playing teenagers. It's fine.
And not to interrupt you guys too, but he was the Broadway star.
Right. He was.
Right? He was the person who created, who was the originator of this role. Anyone else would just be doing Ben Platt. So may as well just get the real thing.
Correct. So I had no issue with that, but I'd love to have seen the actual Broadway show because the story, I mean, it's like a plot from Three's Company. Because he lies at the very beginning, and it's one of these like so simple lies. And it is a key scene where Amy Adams starts to open up, and he realizes that he's sort of helping her grief, right?
Yes.
But did we really buy it? You obviously must have. I didn't at all at that point. I thought, oh my God, this is so corny.
Wait, what don't you buy? That is
he
so
would go
plausible.
along on the lie. No, it's not plausible. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think so at all. I think he was so awkward, and now he's just going to have this imagination to go with this lie. I didn't buy it at all.
At what point? I mean, at what point does he have the imagination? See, that's what I'm talking about. Like the character, he's, and I'm trying not to give anything away here. He's stumbling over exactly how he's going to continue this lie, because in the first meeting, he's pretty innocent in just saying, yeah, I was his friend. I mean, this is nothing given away. This is right in the trailer. But then later he has to elaborate, right? So he just talks about himself because he too was isolated and alone. So that's where those feelings and stories come from. He's not lying, really. He's just talking about a different person. He's talking about himself.
The story also lends itself to these most awkward moments with him and the family, him and the sister who's played by Caitlin Devers. Some of those moments are almost cringeworthy. It was so awkward on screen. I mean, not awkward in the movie way we're used to seeing it. Like I almost had to look away because I was so almost embarrassed for Ben Platt in some of the scenes. True story.
He's supposed to be awkward. He's an awkward teenager and he's really socially inept.
It didn't work for me.
Okay.
But the casting that I thought was the worst by far, I don't know what this guy is doing getting acting roles, is the actor's name is Danny Pino, who plays Connor's dad. Oh, was he awful? Him? Oh, Matt. I mean, you could look at a cardboard box and think he gave a better performance. This guy was terrible. He's completely wooden. He has to sing at one point, and it was like laughable when he finally opens up to sing a little bit. He was ridiculous. I mean, the beginning. I mean, how about when they're talking about their son dying and he's watching a baseball game? It was so like,
did you completely miss the point of this movie? That's garbage. The whole thing. He doesn't connect because his son was such a pain in the ass. He has mixed feelings about him being gone. That's what the whole song, like No Requiem Tonight, is about. Like,
I get that, but you're saying that because Ben Platt's character sings about a baseball glove, all of a sudden he realizes that he was a bad dad. It was kind of corny.
No, dude, it took him a while to connect to his grief. He was in denial. Man, you just completely missed the emotional message of this movie.
I could not get into the emotional wavelength of this film. For sure did not work on me the way it worked on you. That's only
I have a theory. I think it's because I'm a parent. That might be it, dude.
It could be, possibly. But hold on. I got other issues with it.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I thought the film actually tried to tackle too much. I think going with the teen depression and mental health, perfect. Stick with that. I like the message of the film. But then it ventures into this sub storyline of the single mother played by Julianne Moore, which leads to another extremely awkward moment when she goes over to visit the family.
Yeah.
That is going to try to help her son go to college.
Totally awkward. But have you not been in that situation?
No, I mean, I haven't. I 100% have not.
Oh, you really? Have? Like, yeah. I mean, not exactly that, because they were about to impart a major gift, right? Yeah. Like when my parents met my girlfriend's parents when we were like teenagers, it's incredibly awkward.
But when Julianne Moore sings her song about being a single mom, would probably work great in another movie if we were talking about that particular issue. But in here, it seemed wedged in. Stick with the teen mental health and suicide.
Because that's part of what made him who he is and caused, at least somewhat caused his depression. And I don't want to say caused it, but was part and parcel of it. It was all mixed together. Like their relationship was just as central to his healing and his getting past this as any other, maybe the most important one.
Also thought that Ben Platt, I've mentioned it a little bit already, is just too awkward in general, not movie awkward where it's like, okay, we're used to seeing this on screen. He literally is just an awkward human being, I think.
Yeah, he's like Michael Cera, but actually talented.
No, see, that's the exact opposite. Like Michael Cera, it's awkward, but you can still laugh along with him awkward. This is like Ben Platt's awkward in the sense of like, look away. This is just cringeworthy.
I fell in love with Ben
Couldn't
Platt.
watch him.
I was like, wow, God. Can we get more of this guy? This is
unbelievable. And then where do you come off saying that these songs are good? You hate when the characters start singing just basic dialogue. And there was so many times. That's all it was.
Are you kidding?
Moore, Julianne Moore at one point starts talking to her son, Ben Platt, and she starts off in conversation and then mid-conversation starts singing. It's very bizarre. None of that worked for me.
There were hooks. There were repeated choruses.
There were no hooks.
There were hooks. You just didn't catch on to them, I guess.
There wasn't one hook in this movie.
There were hooks. No Requiem Tonight, which is one I already mentioned, was very hooky. And I can't remember the rest of the songs right off the top of my head. I've only seen this movie once, but there were several that had sing-songy choruses. And there were breaks in between the songs, long breaks where they were actually just talking dialogue, and then they would have a number. It was not like, what was the one we just reviewed where it was the whole movie was sung?
Annette.
What was it? Annette. Oh my God.
No, Annette's far superior than this.
Oh
please.
God, no. This was a great movie if you want to sit on the couch with a tub of ice cream and a box of Kleenex and just ugly cry.
No one's going to ugly cry at this movie
I
except
did.
Matt Kay.
You know what? I think you're dead wrong, dude.
But I'll say this also, the pacing of the film, because something really big happens where they're trying to raise money. There's this large scene where this actually takes place. I looked at my watch and I thought this was going to almost maybe be the end of the movie. And it was only like an hour and 15 minutes in. And then I realized, like, man, we got to go through a lot here because we all sort of know what's going to eventually happen. You know, truths are going to come out and everybody's going to sort of realize, you know, the story, the fib, if you will, is out there. I thought, oh my God, this is going to go a long time. I thought it was too long. The pacing was bad. Nothing worked in this movie for me.
I think it's a modern day John Hughes musical. It was fantastic. A movie I will revisit again for sure, especially if I'm in the mood for a good cry. It hit all the right buttons, hit all the right notes. Love the music, love the acting. I thought Amy Adams and Julianne Moore was perhaps a little underused, but that's a minor complaint. And they were both great in this. Amy Adams totally redeemed herself for the woman in the window with this movie.
So as I just want to interject something real quick here, if I can, as someone who I love the original like show, the theater musical.
So you saw it. You've seen the musical.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's terrific, but I kind of don't want to see this movie because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that you can pull off in live theater that doesn't work on screen. And I'm curious to know if any of that got picked up, because from the commercials, it really seems like I'm kind of in the camp where, because I know it so well, I'm not going to see this movie because I don't think it's going to be as good as the show.
I'm sure it won't be as good as the show. And the show must have been good. They wouldn't have made a movie out of a bad show. So I trust Phil's opinion. I trust Tony's opinion, right? But I saw Tony at the same show. I think he was there with me. One part that you have to agree didn't work, and I think Hollywood needs to work on this particular aspect of when they're doing word spreading by text and social media. So something happens, a character posts something that shouldn't have been posted, and it's one of these moments where people start seeing it on their phones and their devices like crazy. And the way it's depicted in the movie is so over the top ridiculous, to the point where a family member is walking in a grocery store and she's starting to get glances from the cashier and other shoppers in the store. It just didn't work, man.
Do you understand? Do you understand what a narrative shorthand is, Ryan?
I think that's a different medium. That would work on stage in a way. They could probably pull it off, but to do it in the movie and do it so fast comes off as just goofy and ridiculous.
It's goofy a lot easier to suspend a disbelief in like a real theater than a movie theater. I don't want to say that pejoratively, but
goofy and ridiculous and unrealistic, like people suddenly breaking into song.
Yes,
it's a fucking musical.
You said yourself that didn't work in Annette. I feel like it's not going to work for this movie.
No, what I didn't like about Annette is that the entire movie was sung and there were no actual songs. You can't just sing every line of dialogue and call it a fucking musical. This was a musical in the traditional sense. It was like literally a musical from the stage. Annette was an interesting exercise in tolerance, but this was a true musical and it was great.
So I'm going to give you my jaw-dropping moment here because I want to bring something up here that might shock you because you watched the trailer and Phil had seen the show with Tony. My jaw-dropping moment was when they announced that Connor committed suicide. I had no idea what I was walking into. I didn't know what this movie was about at all. I thought it was a coming of age story. I thought perhaps it was a love story. I didn't know where it was going. I did not know at all it was about teen suicide and mental health. So I was like floored when that was the news. And I realized like, oh my God, this is going to be like a serious, sad musical. Maybe that put me in the wrong mind frame because I was going in looking for something a little bit more upbeat. Maybe, but I still don't think any of this worked for me or is going to work for most people.
My jaw-dropping moment was the prom montage when Evan is finally kind of enjoying everything that's happened, like, and maybe to an extent where it starts to cross some lines. And I liked that montage, the I don't know, the bittersweetness of it.
How about a movie poster quote?
Sincerely, Dear Evan Hansen is a love letter to teenage mental health.
I went with so bad, you'll wonder why James Corden wasn't in it.
All right. Wow. All right. How many Jaws, Ryan? I can't believe we're so far apart on this film. How many Jaws?
I think this is between 1 and 1.5 stars.
Wow.
Jaws. This is just not good.
4 full Jaws from Matt K. It is potentially my favorite. I'm telling you,
you're just joking at this point.
I'm not joking. I don't know what you didn't see in this. It was just a great coming of age movie. One of definitely the best musical of the year. What do you got that's better than this year?
Annette, we've already talked about it. It's by far better than this. I would take In the Heights over this.
Boo. And I don't even think Annette's a musical. That's not fair.
And I will say this too. It should be noted, we watched this in 2 different ways. You saw a screening link, so you were just by yourself. I would take this watching it.
Yeah. I felt very comfortable to get the Kleenex and the ice cream and ugly cry. I'm
not kidding. You know how a lot of times you can just pick up the vibe in the movie theater when you're watching? Mm-hmm. The vibe, hands down, was awkward. This isn't working. There was no laughter, and not that this is a comedy by any means, but there is some humorous moments that they try for. Nothing worked. No one laughed. There was no big crying moments where you can feel everybody's emotional in the theater. It was just
the whole way through.
The whole way through just felt like, nothing worked here.
Well, Ryan, somebody wise once told me the masses are asses. So you're going to trust everybody else's opinion in the movie theater rather than just your own.
I'm just explaining to the jawheads that was the vibe at the movie screening, was that you could tell everybody just didn't really vibe with the film. That's it. That's all I'm saying. I definitely didn't. 1.5 Jaws.
4 Jaws.
From Rye, the movie guy. 4 Jaws for Matt K.
Will possibly be on my top 10 list at the end of the year.
So it is talking about mental health and positive mental health. How do we get there? How do we help each other? Was there another movie that you would recommend to the jawheads that does the same?
I got a few, man. I mean, if I'm being honest, the one that I've seen the most times is As Good as It Gets. I love As Good as It Gets. It's just a feel good movie. It's Jack Nicholson, Helen Hunt, and Greg Kinnear, and Cuba Gooding Jr. All of them at the top of their games. And for some reason, just magic happened. The chemistry was there. Boom. Great movie. Totally rewatchable. Corny, but lovable. And I think it's uplifting too.
So I probably, because this is dealing with teens and in high school, went with a film that I wasn't or didn't have a chance to talk about from last year, 2020. And that was called, sorry, lost my notes here. Spontaneous. This is the movie where kids start to spontaneously combust. They just blow up out of nowhere. And
that's pretty cool.
The combustion at first is used as a comedy feel, right? They're literally in class, and then a kid just explodes in the class and blood and guts go everywhere. But that combustion is used a couple of different ways. One, it's this whole idea of mental health and how kids are losing it and either being suicidal and or causing mass harm to many people. So there's a scene in the movie where the 2 main characters, who are played by Charlie Plummer and Haley Law, and they're running out of their high school because multiple kids are combusting at one time. And it definitely gives you the vibe of a school shooting and what that would be like to lose people that, you were in class with earlier that day. So it double over, idea and themes,
dual meanings.
Yeah. Mental health and school violence and shootings that we're seeing more and more. Highly recommend this one. And it's a dark comedy as well. It's got some humor.
I'd also throw in Rain Man and Good Will Hunting.
Not bad.
We talk about these a lot.
Yeah, those are some good ones. as far as musical goes, you're saying this is your favorite of the year. Step it back a little bit further. Give the Jawheads another one of your taste from, let's say, the past 5 years. And I'm going one stipulation here, Matt.
Okay.
No animation. We want a live action musical in the past 5 years that you would say, yes, Jawheads, check this out.
If you would give me 10 years, I would say The Muppets. But in the last 5 years, and that's arguably not animated because there are puppets in it, but and puppets are technically animated. But I would go with A Star Is Born. That's my favorite of the last 5 years.
I actually wrote that one down as an honorable mention for me, and it just comes in under the 5 years, is La La Land, which came out in 2016. Classical musical that seemed like it couldn't possibly work, and yet it completely did. Loved it. And then I had a hidden gem here, and we were talking about what's Wolverine's name?
Hugh Jackman.
Yes, thank you. And we were talking about our favorite Hugh Jackman performances a couple weeks back. The Greatest Showman. I skipped it in theaters and caught up with it. I think it's streaming. Can we throw that in the fish tank? It might be streaming on HBO Max. But I finally caught up with The Greatest Showman. Shockingly, very entertaining. And boy, that Hugh Jackman can sing and dance.
He does a lot of like period drama musicals, doesn't he?
Well, he did Les Mis and The Greatest Showman. I was a fan, so like that one as well.
Well, we were talking earlier about awkwardness and teens and how you think Ben Platt is so awkward. What about some awkward teen movies?
Wow.
You got a favorite?
Well, this is a great topic. We could almost did a top 5 awkward teen characters.
I'm surprised
or
we haven't. Yeah.
So I was researching this and I didn't know where to go with my favorite. I've only seen this movie one time, but right away that question, Napoleon Dynamite, popped into my head for the ultimate awkward teen. So awkward. This is where it's funny. What I'm mentioning earlier about watching Ben Platt be awkward, it's not funny. It's like cringeworthy and you just want to look away. Napoleon Dynamite was completely played for laughs and it worked tenfold. I mean, everything the guy said, no matter what the line delivery was, you laughed just at how strange Napoleon Dynamite was and how awkward.
John Heder never really got his career, like his legs underneath him, did he? I mean, he had a couple of movies after that, but nothing ever really worked out really well for him, did it?
Yeah, no, it really didn't. And we tried to interview him on Cinemajaw. Remember at that comic convention? I think that was before Phil might have joined the show. It was like me, you, and Elias, and he was like doing like autographs. We walked up like, we'll probably be able to get like 10 minutes with him, and he shot us down.
Man, what was he thinking? This could have been the key. This could have been what kickstarted the next phase of John Heder's career.
What about an awkward teen for you, Matt?
This, I don't know if this one counts, but American Beauty popped into my mind for this. There's some awkward teenage stuff in it. Certainly some mental health stuff with teenagers.
It does somewhat fit into the theme of Dear Evan Hansen. Speaking of that, the same director, as you mentioned, did Perks of Being a Wallflower, awkward teen. And I like the explanation of why he's awkward and what happened to him in the past. Excellent movie. And last but not least, The Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld playing the socially awkward teenage girl that, having trouble.
I got a few honorables as well, man. I mean, this is a great topic. We really should have done a top 5 on this because a Book Smart is a real obvious one that pops into your mind with Caitlin Devers, who's also
even though they're funnier than they are awkward. They think they're cool, right? Like they don't have the anxiety so much so that a lot of these awkward teens have. At least they have themselves to think that they're both really cool.
What about Weird Science? Anthony Michael Hall, where they create a monster, they create a woman. God, who was that? Can we throw that in the fish tank? I forget her name.
Wow, I forget it too.
She was the hot starlet of the era.
Wasn't it Molly Ringwald?
No. This is the girl that they create in Weird Science.
Oh,
but speaking of Molly Ringwald, I'd also throw in my last honorable, Pretty in Pink. Ducky, the most awkward teen character of all time. John Cryer's best performance, bar none, changed my mind.
16 Candles, really, she's sort of the awkward teen in 16 Candles, right?
Sure. Yeah. See, that's why I'm saying like there's some John Hughes synergy going on with Dear Evan Hansen. I thought it was great.
I can only imagine how awkward you were as a teen, Matt.
Oh, I was cool as hell, man. You kidding me? I was a rebel.
Oh man. All right. We need to take a break. Jawheads, if we missed your favorite awkward teen, maybe there's a newer one that we're not thinking of, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. What we are going to do is take a break. And when we come back, we have another review. Finally, we're celebrating Clint Eastwood all month. We are going to take a look at Cry Macho plus Stump the Kabinski. Stick with us.
I think it's safe to say that Dirty Harry is the most badass Clint Eastwood character ever. I mean, between the Magnum, the action movie one-liners, the weird Jim Carrey part in Deadpool, the Gorillaz song, the sudden impact clip we already played this month, and the fact that we're about to play Clint Eastwood's most iconic clip using Dirty Harry again, it's no contest. He is hands down the most badass.
I know what you're thinking, punk. You're thinking, did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Now, to tell you the truth, I forgot myself in all this excitement. But being this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and will blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Hey Jawheads, we're continuing our celebration of Clint Eastwood month, and we want you guys to join in on the fun too. If you don't know where to start, we've got a couple of really great Clint Eastwood picks available on different popular streaming services. Unforgiven and Gran Torino are on HBO Max this month, The Outlaw Jose Wales and his directed film Mystic River are on Netflix, Million Dollar Baby can be found on both Netflix and HBO Max, A Fistful of Dollars and Escape from Alcatraz are on Amazon Prime, Hang 'em High, featuring not only Clint Eastwood but a very young Bruce Dern, is available on the free service Hoopla provided by your local library, and In the Line of Fire is playing for free with ads on Pluto TV. We hope you guys check out at least one of those films and enjoy Clint Eastwood month this September.
And we are back on Cinemajaw. Matt, before we get to our Cry Macho review, I wonder if we're going to split again like we just did on Dear Evan Hansen.
I mean, we used to split like that all the time, but it hasn't happened that drastically in a while.
No, I am still stunned to hear.
Me too, buddy.
Shocked. And we're also going to play Stump the Kabinski. Before we get there, we threw a few items into the fish tank. And I know Phil, he loves to come out and sing every week. So let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you guys so much. While I probably do know most of the words to all of the Dear Evan Hansen soundtrack, I'm not going to punish anybody by putting you guys through that. I do want to say real quick too. Also,
so what you're saying is you will sing no Requiem tonight?
Yes, I am saying exactly that. That was very good, Nat.
Thank you.
That, like, I think maybe half the audience got that. The other half were like, "What the fuck?"
Those are the ones I'm talking to.
And I do have to say real quick too, Matt. I do not know what you are on about. There is so much, like, I am amazed that you like this because it is so musically. And going back to my point earlier, there's just so many things that you can't pull off
from a stage musical on cinema. Like they get too cinematic with it. They try like Hairspray was terrible. Rent was terrible. In the Heights was terrible.
Whoa. Hairspray was a movie first, and then it became a musical.
I don't think that's true.
It is.
I think you're just confusing that because John Waters made movies.
Throw that in the fish tank.
I'll look that up. I'll die on this hill. If I'm wrong, then I guess I'm wrong. But yeah, I really can't think of any musicals that did as well cinematically as they did on stage.
All right. Well, I can name a couple, but before I do, I'm curious, what do you think exactly that they can pull off on the stage? And listen, I get it. They're two different mediums. They both have their value. They both have their intricacies and what makes them special and unique. But what can't be done that a play can do specifically?
Okay, so let's go back to casting what's his nuts, Ben Platt, for example.
Okay,
it's not like, I mean, I think what did we say, he's 27 now. At the time,
you also said he deserved the role.
I do, because he's like the
originator.
Yeah, it's like casting someone other than Margot Robbie as the clown lady.
Harley Quinn.
Thank you. Sorry, brain fart. But like that can work. I think like there's just a huge suspension of disbelief with some of like the more bombastic things, right? The idea in theater being that, right, you could have someone in the front row who can see you very clearly, but that's only one person. The rest of the people are going to be so far away. So you have to be larger than life. You have to have, right, going to Ryan's point with these over the top emotions inside the supermarket, that largeness is a product of necessity for a theatrical performance that if you do on stage or if you do on film without like being self-aware about it, does not work. It just looks like weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And musicals that are adapted to cinema usually do not do a good job of grounding these.
Bang, bang.
And for the record,
the movie better than the stage play, because when the car flies in the stage play, it's kind of like me. But when the car flies in the movie, that was movie magic. Speaking of flying cars, we mentioned this earlier. Grease, also the movie is probably better than the stage play.
And what I will say, the movie is very, very, very different than the stage play. There's like so many cut songs and so much like they do a lot of work to make that work. But if you don't do that, if you just shoot what's supposed to be a musical set in a house, it doesn't work. And I also, for the record, did look it up, and we're a little bit splitting hairs here because the original John Waters film came out in the 80s. The non-musical one came out in the 80s, but the musical version of Hairspray was a stage performance before the Amanda Bynes and who's that guy from Face Off? I'm having so much
John Travolta.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Speaking of Grease, Danny Zuko over there.
Yeah, I'll end that argument here of theater and switching it to cinema with the idea that Grease and some of these films that you were mentioning that worked really well, Matt. I think they had a spectacle to them. Like there's big dance sequences that are going to work good on film, but they don't. Dear Evan Hansen isn't that. It's not going to have a big musical number like when he goes to the prom. That might have been. I mean, I just watched the musical Prom last year, where all of a sudden it's a huge number that would work well for film. Here, there's none of that. It's quiet songs. They're, like I said, mid dialogue, start singing to each other. I think would work much better in the theater than it worked here on film.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree. I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Both mediums are equally valuable.
Well, I think we all agree on that.
Mm-hmm. What else do we have in the fish tank? Phil?
Oh, yeah. This is before we even got to our questions here, guys. Sorry, it's been a long fish tank. Our first one is The Greatest Showman streaming. Great news. It is. It's included in your Disney Plus subscription.
Wow.
I did not even realize that this was in any way a Disney IP, but it's there. You have it. And then,
I like it.
Who plays the woman they create in Weird Science? That actress would be Kelly LeBrock playing Lisa.
She was also in The Woman in Red with Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka himself, as well as one of her other major film roles that I saw was in Hard to Kill with Steven Seagal.
Wow. She wasn't the mannequin, was she? Who was mannequin?
No, dude, that's Kim Cattrall.
Oh, right. That's Kim Cattrall. Right. Totally.
Yeah. Kelly LeBrock, she was in Hard to Kill.
That's,
you know what else? I think she might have also been in The Woman in Red.
Yeah.
I was setting up a joke,
times.
Phil. It just didn't go over too well.
No. Matt's humor never does. All right. Was that everything, Phil?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Jump back in that fish tank.
Can do.
Matt, this may sound funny to those who do not remember or were not born at the time, but back in 1992, when Clint Eastwood gave us his masterpiece, Unforgiven, it was kind of looked at as a farewell, or at least a last hurrah for the Hollywood icon. That was almost 30 years ago. Since then, he went on to make another over 20 films, and won 2 more Oscars. His latest film, Cry Macho, sees the 91-year-old not only direct, but also star in it. Matt and I headed to the border to check out the latest from Clint.
You owe me, Mike. You gave me your word. And that used to mean something. My son, Rafael, he's in trouble. I want to get him out of Mexico.
You want me to go down there and kidnap him?
Please, just get him back up here.
Just you?
Just me. Hey, Rafa, you can come out now. I'm a friend of the family.
Touch me and I'll kick your ass, old man.
Jesus Christ.
Cry Macho is being billed as Eastwood's return to the Western genre. While he does play an old cowboy, the story is set in 1979. Clint drives a truck, not a horse, but he does get on a horse for a brief moment. His character is asked by his former boss to drive from Texas down to Mexico City to retrieve his son and bring him back to the States. Some complications get in the way. The kid does not want to go, and the kid's mom does not want him to leave. Why someone would send a 91-year-old man to do this job is a huge question mark in the movie. No answer to it either. Along the way, Clint's character, believe it or not, folks, finds love and purpose. But does the film actually work? Sad to say, it's a no for me. I never felt fully invested in the story. From the time Eastwood's character meets up with the son, Raffo, at a cockfight, to seeing them have their car stolen on the side of a road, I was never drawn in. I wondered why Eastwood made the movie. Maybe it is like his character, Mike, in the film, trying to still find purpose. This is not at all a major work like some of his past films. If you're not an Eastwood fan, I would skip this one. Are we agreeing on this, Matt?
I would say if you are an Eastwood fan, skip this one. What the hell did we just watch? Holy crap. I mean, Clint Eastwood is a cinema titan. All right. He has made, we can argue about whether $1 Million Baby or Unforgiven is his best work, whatever. But most of his movies are at least really good. Most of them. He's had some duds, but very, very few. This one doesn't even belong in his pantheon. It's a total junker. I never got into the story, the message, the kid, his acting. I hate to say it. Fresh face. I wanted to like him, but his acting was terrible. It was just so one-dimensional. He never gave anything to this character, like emotionally.
I agree. Like, you never really believed that the kid was in the situation that he was. It really felt like an actor dropped into the role to play this kid who's down in Mexico and 91-year-old came to get him. You know what I mean? It didn't feel authentic at all. There was no authenticity to this movie.
Is Clint Eastwood, I know he's 91. Is he supposed to be 91 in the movie? He must not be, because there's women coming onto him left and right. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say left and right, but there are at least 2 women come onto him.
2 women come onto him, which both times I was like, what the hell am I watching?
I was thinking the same thing. I thought, wait a minute. Is she making a pass at Clint? This is unbelievable.
Right. And then he gets into a fight at one point. And now listen, Clint Eastwood is a tough, badass guy, but he's 91 years old. Okay. I'm pretty sure you could blow on him and he would fall over. He's an old man.
And this is actually part of what I actually disliked about Cry Macho. And that's this idea that what we have of Clint Eastwood in our minds. As soon as you hear the name, you think of this badass Hollywood icon that we've known for years. It was almost sad seeing him in this state. His line delivery was slow. He walked slow. There was like a time he had to like bend down, like in the movie. I think he was like looking underneath the car. I thought, well, this might be the end of the film, you know?
Holy shit, dude, that is so funny. I'm spoiler alert. That is my jaw-dropping moment, because when he got down to look under the car, listen, my dad is 77. And for him to get down and look under the couch, I mean, we might be there for a while. Okay.
Right. And in fact, the part where I actually laughed out loud was their car gets stolen. And that it's a huge question mark on how their car gets stolen. They leave it on the side of the road. I'm sure I'm sure they wouldn't have left the keys in the ignition, but let's even say they did. That's not my point. The car gets stolen. They're in the middle of nowhere, and Clint moves so slow in this movie. And the scene cuts with them walking down the road.
I'm like, oh, well, that's the end of them. They're going to die in the desert.
There's no way he was walking to a town. There's no chance. They were miles and miles away.
And how about another continuity here? When they no pun intended, when they stop in this town and there's a woman who shows them some kindness, and then they're like, well, we got to get back on the road. So they get in the road and they drive, and finally they stop for the night at some old abandoned church, but it's still in the same town. Did you pick up on that? Because
it was very strange.
The same kind woman was there in the morning with breakfast. Like, what? They ostensibly drove all day.
But I think they turned around and went back to stay at that town. I think he does say that to the kid at one point. He says, well, we're going to have to go back and stay in town.
Oh, all right. Maybe I missed that. I think you're being generous. I think that was a flub.
Yeah. But even that whole entire scene didn't work for me at all, nor did when he meets the kid at this cockfighting. Macho is the name of the rooster.
Yeah. His cock.
Yeah. That the kid is putting out into these cockfights. And so originally, Clint's character meets the kid there. It seems already kind of far-fetched. He doesn't have like a great lead to get him, but he gets there. And right when he's getting to the cockfight, the cops come to bust this thing up. And Clint, like, it just looked so awkward being like, again, a guy in his 90s, kind of like hiding from the cops, you know, behind some like crates. Like, would this really happen? I didn't know what I was watching it sometimes.
No. And here's the thing. I actually don't agree with you about Clint Eastwood being not good in this movie. He's still Clint Eastwood. Like, his lines are a little slower. He moves a little slower because of his age, of course. But if he had the right script, this character, Mike, whatever, I can't remember the last name of the character.
Yeah, I think it's Milo.
Mike Milo is a younger man. He's probably written as a man in his like 60s, maybe. Someone who's definitely been there. He's over the hill. His future is mostly gone. He's looking backward for the most part. But 91, no, a 91-year-old doesn't go on a road trip adventure across the border to rescue a teenager. That just did not happen. And he doesn't have sexual escapades in Mexico City, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, the backstory, I think that, you know, obviously there's a backstory to Mike, his life and lost loves that he had. And so there's this moment that he's trying to like, oh, he can still go on. And the only thing I could take away from that is that's Eastwood looking at life itself right now. That his character is reflecting that, like, I can still do this. I can still do, you know, I can still be a service to society. I can still make these movies. That's all I could get out of it. But I mean, it's nothing like the way you like deconstructed a Western in Unforgiven, or, you know, the emotional weight of $1 Million Baby. I mean, we're nowhere near anything like that. It was barely watchable, I thought.
Yeah. If he had done the right role, the role of somebody his own age, and had something to say about age and experience and where he's been and what he's seen, it might have been a hit, but this wasn't that.
So your jaw-dropping moment was when Clint went down to look underneath the car?
Yeah. Well, I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. I mean, good on him. He can still get down and look under a car. That was amazing.
Mine for sure was the big action scene. And that's, of course, when Macho, the rooster, finally attacks. I mean, it was so ridiculous and far-fetched. This rooster that they're carrying around the entire time finally is the one that saves the day. I mean, the whole thing's silly. You got a movie poster quote?
Yeah. Cry Macho, more like cry Metamucil.
I like it. I went with see a 91-year-old chase down a chicken.
We're having some fun. We're having some fun with Clint, but I think if the role was right for his age, it would have been fine. It would have been much better, but he tries to play too young in this and it just doesn't fly.
He catches this chicken faster than Rocky did in Rocky when Mick was training him. And the whole thing is so silly. How many Jaws here, Matt?
I'm giving this 1.5 Jaws.
Well, I'm really pressed here because as bad as I think this is, it's definitely better than Dear Evan Hansen. So I'll go 2 Jaws for Cry Macho.
It's not better. Oh, bite your tongue, dude. Come on. You didn't like Evan Hansen, fine, but this movie is not better.
2 Jaws for Cry Macho, just because. How about Old Cowboys? Believable here. We're going back and forth on if we believe Clint was old enough. And I do want to know, even before we get there, I read earlier today on Wikipedia that this movie has been around, like the script, for something like 25, 30 years. They tried to make this way back in the day. At one point, there were numerous people. I think Warren Beatty was going to make it. And then, believe it or not, Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to make it maybe about 10 years ago. And then, scandal happened. And then it came back to Clint Eastwood. And he's like, all right, I can still do this movie. But he was going to do it something like 25 years ago. And then it's gone through all these cycles. So crazy.
Weird. It wasn't that great of a story.
It really wasn't. It really wasn't. But as far as Old Cowboys, who do you like? Who's your sort of go-to that you would say, yeah, this one's believable?
That's a really hard question. I mean, the only one that even kind of popped into my mind was Jeff Bridges, the dude in True Grit. It's got to be really, 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 really hard to step into a John Wayne role and to pull it off in such a great way. And it was the Coen brothers, obviously, at the director's chair. It's just a great movie. And I thought that he really did that character some justice.
So you want to see an old cowboy, an old man that's still a complete badass. You look no further, Matt, than Robert Duvall as Boss Spearman in the 2003 film Open Range. This was also starring Kevin Costner, who also directed the film. And he's an old timer who can still hold his own. And in fact, the ending of Open Range, I swear, has one of the best gunfights I've ever seen in a Western. I mean, it is just flat out awesome gunfight. And you got Kevin Costner in there, Robert Duvall, Annette Bening, great cast. Big fan of this one.
What's that old movie? Man, I wish I could remember the name, where the old timers decide to leave their retirement homes and go rob trains. They used to be like train robbers, like cowboys back in the day. And
throw it in a late jaw box, Phil. Look that one up.
I think Jack Lemmon is in it. I could be wrong about that.
Old timers robbing trains. Interesting. Well, we mentioned that there is a rooster in this movie, which makes the road trip the entire time with this kid and Clint Eastwood. Unusual animal to be in there the whole entire time. Do you got another unusual animal movie?
Yeah. I mean, before I mention my unusual animal movie, I think what really makes this movie is the fact that the rooster is in every scene. There's not a scene without the rooster.
That's untrue, but he's in
really?
most. Yeah, I mean, he does come into the
99%.
diner. I was about to say he doesn't go in the diner, but in fact, when they stop for food and they meet the waitress for the first time, I do believe the rooster's in there.
Once he's introduced, he's never far from the camera, if ever. I would go with, speaking of Clint Eastwood, the orangutan in both the Any Which Way movies, which I have come to learn as a mature adult was very irresponsible filmmaking. It was a different era back then. They were exploiting wild animals. Not saying it's a good thing, but that popped into my mind.
I went with a CGI animal, so this was not a live.
Sure, so no complicated ethics for you,
right? But it was the most bizarre title character too, Oakjaw, the super pig in Bong Joon-ho's Oakjaw, which was a lovable character after a while, right?
I loved it. It's only Elias that didn't love it.
I know. The other one that I wrote down, and this was just I think it was a strange choice, but a movie I absolutely loved and then was obsessed with getting these as pets, was way back in the day. Remember the movie Beastmaster?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And he had those ferrets. I still don't know I don't know why people, as a kid, I wanted ferrets because of Beastmaster. I thought that like they were just everywhere and they're so cool. Now you never hear about ferrets. So.
I have some friends on Facebook that are ferret people.
Are they?
True story. Yeah. And,
so
and
people
they
do
run
have
around the
them as
house
pets.
and stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. Well, I thought ferrets and Beastmaster, they were pretty fun.
I like that. I have quick honorable. This is animated. So I would say Timon and Pumbaa from The Lion King. Obviously, I know Pumbaa is a warthog, but I'm still not sure what the hell Timon even is.
He's a meerkat.
Is he a meerkat?
Of course. He's a meerkat. Yes.
You 100% sure about that?
I am beyond 100% sure. There's even like in the Circle of Life song, one of the first shots is a bunch of other meerkats like doing the iconic little thing where they're just looking
where they
out.
all stand up. Yeah, he is right on that.
I'll take your word on it, Phil.
One thing I was worried about when Cry Macho came to an end was I thought, what if this is the last one? Right? I don't want to be morbid here. I don't want to be morbid, but what if this is Clint's last movie? I'd really be upset if this was the end. I don't want to see him go out with Cry Macho. Got me thinking, Matt. Last question on this one. What would you say Clint Eastwood's last great performance is? Where do you put that?
I actually looked through his filmography. And if we're talking like purely performances, I did not see Gran Torino. And I've heard nothing but great things about Gran Torino. But going backward from that, because I have to disqualify that, the next great one, most recently, would be $1 Million Baby in 2004. It was a great performance, totally like emotional gut punch. And I don't think anybody could have pulled it off as good as Clint.
So I had that one written down. I also did write down Unforgiven. That's all the way back in 92. And Gran Torino, I thought was solid performance. Not great, not his last great one. So for my money, the one I would go to is back in 1995, where he was still a leading man, older, but still a leading man in Bridges of Madison County.
Yeah. Damn, he's been old my entire life.
Right. Like I when I think of Bridges of Madison County, I think, well, this was, Clint near the end, but no, he would go on for another 30 years. Who the hell knew,
Jesus. Yeah. Wow.
It's crazy.
I mean, you know what? That's great. I think he's a great director, great actor. And we've been fortunate to have him having had him around for so long.
Absolutely. It was fun celebrating Clint Eastwood as well. I'm going to do some catching up now that Toronto TIFF is done and we're finishing up Eastwood month here. I am this weekend going to catch up on a couple of old Westerns that I have not seen.
I was thinking the same thing. I might rewatch The Outlaw Jose Wales. It's one of my favorites.
I love this Jose Wales. It's a running joke here on Cinemajaw. Obviously Josie Wales, but yes, I was going to watch it as well. It's streaming on Netflix. So
it's a good one.
Another good one that Matt might want to brush off. I did look it up and I believe you were talking about Tough Guys.
Yes.
Is that what you're thinking of with the Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas's old train robbers?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to tell you it's a great movie. I think the last time I saw it, I was like 10, but I remember it being kind of funny and cool.
Well, old timers on a train.
Yeah,
I'm in.
That's the basic theme of it. They're old cowboys. So,
all right. Me and Matt both down on Cry Macho. 1.5 2 stars at the absolute most. If you've seen it, you agree, disagree, let us know. Shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw. Matt, we get ready for Venom. Let There Be Carnage by playing Stump the Kabinski, Woody Harrelson version. It works like this. There's 5 questions. Matt's got to answer 3 correct to not be stumped.
All right. Okay. I'm ready, Ryan. Hit me with it.
Question number 1 on Stump the Kabinski is this. Woody Harrelson has been nominated, Matt, for 3 Oscars. 2 were for supporting and 1 was for lead actor. Name 2 of the films.
2 of the films. Okay. I would say the 3 Billboards in Ebbing, Missouri.
That is correct on 1. He's got 1.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was not White Man Can't Jump.
He is correct also in that assumption.
And I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be Natural Born Killers. It was one of his later, more serious ones. Damn. Got to name another one. I'll say, what? Were you going to give me a hint?
I was going to say your hint on this is you're a fan of the movie.
I'm a fan of so many movies. Natural Born Killers.
No, incorrect. We would have accepted The People versus Larry Flint.
Oh, shit. Of course.
Yes. And The Messenger. But I thought you were going to get Larry Flint.
Yeah. Well, on a better day, I would have.
Matt, 0 for 1. Question 2, Matt, is this. Woody Harrelson has only made 1 movie with Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox. That's right. Woody Harrelson and Michael J. Fox made 1 movie together. It came out in 1991. Name the movie.
Doc Hollywood.
That, my friends, is correct. Matt is on the board. He has 1
Did you
correct.
think I'd get that?
I wasn't sure. Wasn't positive if you would. Question 3, Matt, is this. Woody Harrelson made 1 movie with John Cusack. It came out in 2009. Name the movie, Matt. Woody Harrelson, John Cusack, 2009. What would have that been?
Okay, so there's really only 2 movies it could have been. It could have been the 2012 movie, because everybody thought 2012 was going to be the end of the world. But I actually think that movie came out the year prior in 2011. The other one was that horror movie that Cusack did where it was like room 23 or something like that, but that's not the right number. And it's not like room 13. It's like room 103 or something like that. Crap. Can I get partial points for that? Is that the movie?
I'll say it has a number in the title.
But is that the movie, the horror movie?
No, it is not the horror movie.
Oh. All right, then. Wow, Cusack's done a lot of number movies, I guess, huh?
Well, you just mentioned 2 of them.
Yeah. I don't know. 13th Floor. I got nothing.
It was 2012.
It was 2012? Oh, shit. I talked myself out of it.
I know. It was right there, Matt. It was right there.
There was only 2 movies it could have possibly been, and it was those 2.
1408, I think. Isn't that the number?
1408, yes.
Yes, that is the one.
That was decent movie. Decent movie.
I agree. We stand at this. Through 3 questions, Matt has 1 right, so he needs these last 2. Matt, Woody has done 2 animated movies. Name either of them. Phil can help you out on this, but I don't think Phil's going to be a great help. He might know one of them. Your hint on this is it's nothing wildly popular. It's not a Pixar movie. Neither are Pixar movies.
I mean, and we're not counting the animated sequences in Natural Born Killers.
No, we're not.
Is one of them DreamWorks?
I'm not positive on that, Phil.
Have you seen both of them?
I've only seen one of them.
Is Ewan McGregor in one of them?
I don't believe so.
Okay, it's not what I was thinking of then. I thought it might have been robots.
No, it is not robots.
What's that one with Johnny Depp as the lizard? Rango.
Oh, Rango. Good guess. Incorrect. We were looking for either Scanner Darkly or Freebirds. Have you seen Freebirds?
Oh, I saw Freebirds. Yeah,
I think it's Owen Wilson.
Wow.
Is it not?
Yeah.
Owen Wilson and Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, it was
Freebirds.
terrible.
That's kind of beyond wildly unpopopular. Or what did you call it?
Scanner Darkly, I should have known, but
yeah,
that's rotoscoped. It's a little different from animation.
Did he play a monkey in the Planet of the Apes movie, or is he one of the people?
He's one of the people.
He's one of the people.
Oh, okay.
Matt, we have successfully stumped the Kabinski, but save some face here on the last question. Here we go. Question 5. Woody Harrelson has made several sports movies. I have at least 5 written down here. Name 2 sports movies that Woody Harrelson has made.
White Men Can't Jump.
That is correct. That is 1.
Why can I only think of 1? This is I'm trying to think of him in a sports
White Men
movie.
Can't
All
Jump.
right. So let me think about this logically here. It's like football. I don't think so. Baseball. He did a football movie. What football movie did Harrelson do?
I think that would be the hardest one for you to come up with.
All right.
So don't go with that sport.
All right. Basketball, we mentioned. Did he do a golf movie? Tennis? Oh, crap, dude. Horseback riding? Oh, wait. Oh, Hunger Games.
Incorrect.
It's a sport.
That's not a sport.
Why is that not a sport? It's a game.
Controversy.
Wait a
Controversy.
second. Is it a game?
But is it a
Hunger
sport?
Games?
I don't know if we can count that as sport genre, Matt.
Yeah. We wouldn't. Here's what you had. And this was tough. White Men Can't Jump.
I think I found a loophole.
Semi-pro tennis movie.
Really?
Kingpin bowling.
Bowling. That's the one I should have got.
Yep. Wildcats was the football movie.
Oh, yeah. I like that movie.
Kate Hudson's mom.
Yeah, that's Goldie Hawn, dude.
Goldie
Kate
Hawn.
Hudson's mom.
Well, I couldn't think of it. I had to go there. And then he was in a boxing movie called Play It to the Bone.
Wow,
So-
Woody's been around a long time too. Or we're
I
just getting
agree.
old, right?
I know.
Maybe both.
Yep. Woody here. I was looking some of those up. We're talking like early 90s, I think, with Wildcats, maybe 91. So,
Yeah, Wildcats is old. I mean, Goldie Hawn was still making movies, you know?
mhm.
Wow.
We have stumped the Kabinski. Better luck next time, Matt.
What else is new? All right.
Mhm. Brings us to the end of a very fun and entertaining Jaw. First and foremost, we got to thank our producer, our editor, Phil Me and Phil.
Oh, you know I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, guys.
We also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, we do, Ryan. Thank you to Overcast and to the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get great sponsors like them, Ryan.
If you want to support Cinemajaw, join us on Patreon.
Yes, do that. You know what? We have a lot of cool things coming out on Patreon, like extra bonus content and stuff like that. And hey, wherever you're listening to this, click subscribe. It helps us out, really. Please do.
Absolutely. Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt Kay. And keep on jawing about the movies.